These mysterious earthen figures are called Dogu in Japanese. They were made during the Jomon period, which extended from about 15,000 to 2,300 years ago. Some of the faces are heart-shaped, while others have large, distinctive eyes. About 20,000 dogu of various shapes and sizes have been unearthed around Japan. But we still don't know what they represent or why they were made. Most researchers believe they symbolize pregnant women and were used to pray for safe childbirth. But now a researcher from outside of the archaeology world has come up with a new theory that takes into account aesthetics and cultural anthropology.
The new thesis was put forward by Takekura Fumito. He's a cultural anthropologist who first studied fine arts and law. He is independently researching Dogu while teaching at university as a lecturer. He hopes to penetrate the minds of the Jomon people through their artifacts. His background in fine arts left him uncomfortable with the commonly accepted theory that the Dogu represented female figures.
From the thickness of the necks and the width of the shoulders, I sensed that the people who made the Dogu did not intend for us to see them as women.
The new hypothesis that Takekura has proposed is that the Dogu motifs represent nuts, clams, and other foods that made up the Jomon diet. Takekura says this Dogu, a national treasure, is a motif that represents a Japanese chestnut. He says this world-famous figure, known as the Jomon Venus, is a Japanese horse chestnut. And he adds, this Dogu, with a mountain-shaped head, represents a clam. Takekura believes the Dogu symbolize the spirits of these nuts and other food items, and that people use them to offer prayers and express gratitude. The Jomon people were hunter-gatherers and lived in settlements. Recent archaeological research has found they may have also grown crops and kept orchards. Cultural anthropologists have established that edible plants were deified around the world since ancient times. Takekura believes the Jomon society was no exception.
The basis of my theory is that the Jomon people relied on plants so much that they must have had ceremonial rites related to their uses and cultivation.
In his quest to find proof to support his theory, Takekura traveled to the mountains, riversides, and coastal areas where Jomon people are thought to have lived. The first clue he found was related to the Dogu with a heart-shaped face. He found a Japanese walnut. When he cracked it open, a perfect heart-shaped nut was visible. The contours and shape of the nose extending from the top of the head were surprisingly similar to the Dogu.
Amazing is what I felt. I was certain then that this heart-shaped Dogu unmistakably represented a walnut.
Soon after he formulated this theory, another discovery emerged to support it. The remains of what's believed to have been a basket with hundreds of walnuts from the late Jomon period has been excavated in Fukushima Prefecture. Many Dogu with heart-shaped faces had also been found there. Based on this evidence, Takekura believes the Dogu with a heart-shaped face represented the spirit of the walnuts, and people could have used them to pray for an abundant harvest.
I think the Dogu were made to house the plant spirits. If the people had the Dogu close at hand, they could believe that the plant spirits were really there with them. They could carry out their rites and communicate with them.
After examining various types of Dogu, he hypothesized that there were 9 categories of the figurines, based on motifs representing plant and other food items. An archaeologist who specializes in the Jomon period says Takekura's approach to Dogu research using cultural anthropology is commendable. However, there is still a Dogu motif that Takekura is struggling to identify to back up his theory. It's the goggle-eyed Dogu, one of the most famous varieties of the figurine for its unique appearance. Takekura thinks these figurines almost certainly represent a Japanese taro potato. But unlike other food items, no evidence of the potatoes has been found at archaeological sites. Hoping to detect taro material from the archaeological digs of the Dogu, Takekura sought out an expert for help. He approached Shibutani Ayako, who specializes in the field. Shibutani tells Takekura about the likelihood of discovering traces of taro starch at the site.
Stone tools would have been used for digging potatoes. They were just digging tools, but we might find the substance by analyzing the edges of the blades.
We're more likely to find taro starch on freshly excavated pottery.
I think we can refine the results by combining what we learned about the age of the tool and the analysis of the starch fragment.
Takekura believes he will be one step closer toward unraveling the mystery of the Dogu if he succeeds in confirming the motif of the goggle-eyed Dogu.
If we find evidence of taro, my research can be considered complete and will have a clear shape. I'm really looking forward to everything that comes. I want to take up the challenge of recreating the spiritual world of the Jomon people through the Dogu.
The question of whether Takekura's novel approach will succeed in deciphering the message of the Dogu from ancient times is drawing a lot of attention.
Pretty exciting. Takekura published his theory about the Dogu in April. He now plans to submit his thesis to a university as a doctoral dissertation.